Hi, everyone. Good to see you all. So exciting to be here. What a great room, what a great crowd. All right, so my name is Gavin O'Carroll. I'm head of product design at Skyscanner, and I'm here to talk to you about how good design impacts the bottom line. So most of us are designers in this room, I would say, right? Nearly all designers. Of course, we believe in our heart and our soul that good design can make the company money, it can bring people back to the product, and it can create that brand image in people's heads, right, in your customers' heads. But how do you actually prove that, right? How do you actually do that with the biggest metrics in the company, what they care about the most? So, well, maybe we have an answer, right? We have this Harvard Business Review article that came out a few years ago. There's a McKinsey article that's very similar to this. And it says it right there in the headline, doesn't it? Like, design can drive exceptional returns for shareholders. And it has this nice graph. The graph is showing you that for companies who apply design well over a 10-year period, that they can double their performance. Double their performance, right? So that's it. That's better than investment companies and hedge fund managers, right? That's the impact of design. So just point your stakeholders to this. And we're done. I'll leave the stage. We're finished, right? Unfortunately, it's not as easy as that, right? We've all experienced that. But why is that, right? So, like me, you probably have at some point in your career run into some of these problems that I'm pulling out right now. So, low investment design resource, perhaps, unshipped craft, great talent inside, doing great work inside, but just can't get it out the door, right? Design applied tactically in the organization, right? In firefighting design, or just working on the optimization of existing features, or someone tells you what feature to make, and you just design based on that. And that is a huge amount of unrealized potential, right? And for me, it's always been a huge frustration that it just amounts to a horrendous waste of talent, a waste of resources, a waste of opportunity. So the journey I've been on is really about how do we figure out how to demonstrate the impact of design. And it's really the last few years at Skyscanner and the CX team, I'll introduce some of the people in that now, it's really opened my eyes, right? Because what if, well, first of all, the reason the HBR article doesn't work when you show it to your stakeholders is because they need internal proof, right, don't they? They need to see it with their own eyes, with their own hands, as it were. So what if you could get that high investment, you could get that wonderful craft shipped out the door and get those numbers up, and that you could get to apply design strategically in the organization, right? That's user-centered design thinking applied to feature generation, but also product strategy and even business strategy, right? And that's what the HBR article and the McKinsey article are talking about. They're talking about applying design at a strategic level. That's what doubles the performance of those companies, right? And that is going to give you that huge impact. And that's what I want for all of us, right? So I want to share those, the steps we've been taking today. What are those steps? Well, actually, what's exciting to share about this is that I really want everyone to be able to go back and make their stakeholders sit up and pay attention, right? Really, really shock them, like blow their socks off, right? And what does that mean? It means talking about the three things they care most about. That is revenue, market share, and let's think about what that is. Share and revenue, market share, and retention, of course, sorry. So I'm going to talk about how to prove user focus matters, how to impact market share, and how are we going to prove that design quality matters. I've only got 20 minutes today, so I'm going to take you through the bare bones of that journey that we've been on, but hopefully it will light the way for you, and we can join the dots later, and we can connect and talk more about it. So it'll be a whistle-stop tour. So I work for Skyscanner. Can I get a show of hands, who's like in your last holiday, who's used Skyscanner to plan and book? Oh, wow, that's really cool. And there are even some ex-Skyscanner designers in the room as well, so you better have your hand up. Work for Skyscanner. A few fun facts about Skyscanner. We search 80 billion prices every day. We have 160 million users every month, 1,200 travel partners across flights, hotels, and car hire. But at the end of this talk, stay tuned, because I'm going to give you a little treat, a little tip for Skyscanner to save some money. So I am part of the customer experience team, right? And this is the wonderful people in the customer experience leadership team. They're wonderful, and I show you this slide. We're a team of 80 people, and this is the leadership. And I show you this slide because I'm representing the work of this team. I'm not claiming this is all my work, but I just really wanted to share how we've been changing the tone of the conversation in the company, right, by using these connection to metrics. So you've got me today. I've worked at Skyscanner, Microsoft, Skype, Sky, and I'm a fellow of the RSA. And of course, Julia stole my joke. I was going to say a joke about this, the Sky thing. But are there any other companies that have Sky in the name? Hands up if you work for them. Skynet. Right, exactly. I don't want to work for them. And I just want to talk a little bit about Skyscanner's vision because it embodies this talk in many ways. Because our vision statement is, and we're really proud of this, to become the world's #1 travel ally. We're not just proud of it because it's a refined statement we've been really working on and landed last year, but also because, like embodying this talk, we actually measure this. We actually measure our journey towards, are we becoming the #1 travel ally for our travelers? And we do that by measuring brand preference in our top 10 markets, right? So very practically, we measure how we're becoming more of our vision. And this vision also embodies we have a value at Skyscanner that's always been there, which is called Traveler First, Partner Second, Skyscanner Third. And that's amazing, right? That's a gift for designers. It's basically user first, right? You can always use that in an argument with someone, right? It's really helpful. And this, I love this statement because it embodies that value. And that's core to Skyscanner's ethos. Of course, travel is a great problem space for designers. It's really magical. We're all here at Hatch this week. We're all enjoying ourselves, connecting, having a cathartic time, right? Learning stuff. So it's a great place, it's a great space to work in. But a question for you all. Okay, so look into your designer soul and heart, right? And put your hand up if you think that design is really measurable. Oh well, okay. Delayed reaction. I was like, oh, no one thinks it's measurable for a second. Can you put your hand up if you think it's not measurable? You're not confident about it. It's too nuanced. That retention thing, it's not really hard. It's really hard to connect to that. Okay, a few people there. Some people undecided as well, clearly. Well, my journey at Skyscanner, it's been a revelation. The last 3 years have been a revelation, right, about how we've started to connect the dots on these big metrics. And I'm going to show you how we've done that in a very practical way. This is a how-to, right? I'm going to tell you what we did. And, so let's get into it then. Let's get into the first one. So, first one is how to prove user focus matters. So, most companies have behavioral retention, right? You collect behavioral retention. It's what retention is, articulated as. But the problem, well, what it is it tends to be measured in different windows. It's 7 days, 30 days, can be 60 days, 90 days, different windows. It connects to revenue. Most companies can connect this to revenue, and the idea is that you shift people from one window to another to increase that revenue. The problem with it is there's no insight, right? It's a fuzzy metric. Arguably, nearly everything the company does is driving retention in some way. But the question is what? Is there any precision on that? Not really. So what we need to get is we need a metric that gives insight that is related to retention. So what could that be? Well, is it this one? No, it's not. All right, so I won't go into it. We've moved away from Net Promoter Score. The pros and cons to that, of course, I won't go into that. That's for the researchers to talk about. We do something else. We've invented something which is called User Retention Sentiment, or URS for short, URS. And what it is, it's like NPS in that it's an on-site survey, just Skyscanner users. It has a KPI retention question, so how likely are you to come back to Skyscanner to plan your next trip? And it has a list of jobs to be done. Skyscanner has a canonical jobs to be done framework, so we know which are the key jobs. We list them out, people choose them. They then tell you if that task has been completed. Did you manage to complete your task? And then there are a series of diagnostic attributes. And this is the key thing about this. And I'll show you more in a second. But for example, how easy was it to use, right? These are sub-elements of potentially the retention question, what's driving retention. And then we have open text field input. And this is also really cool, right? This means that people are telling us about their job to be done, and then they're explaining why they either struggled or why that was a good experience, right? So it's a gold mine of information. And this goes out to, every month, it's between 2,000 and 5,000 people. It's a rolling thing. These are all in comparison to competitors as well. So we have a dashboard that's telling us, in comparison to competitors, how are we doing on this list of things, right? So that's just awesome in itself. Now, diagnostic attributes. These are key, and they're key for the next section too, as we linked in things together. So these are things like ease of use, we just talked about, clear language, friendly tone. So these are emotional attributes as well as functional attributes, right? Price accuracy, trustworthiness, right? And a lot more. And then we can figure out which of these are the most important, right? These are the things that are driving retention, right, in our URS levers. And we can figure out which are the most important through regression analysis. And each of these is a sub-metric. It's a percentage, right? It gives you a percentage, right? That's a sub-metric you can do something with, right? And so now you have something that's really interesting. You have a lot of sub-metrics that are related to a retention KPI. And if you go back to behavioral retention, right, so you've got that, okay, and that connects to revenue. Then you have user retention sentiment, URS, and that's got insight. And then we've worked with our analytics partners in the company, and we've shown that these are predictive, right? User retention sentiment is predictive of behavioral retention. And I was just looking at the graphs earlier today, and literally it's just following each other on the graph, right? It's a perfect correlation, right? Predictive. And we match the user IDs to make that more robust across the site as well. So we know this is true. So that's really exciting. Now you've got actionable attributes that are connected to retention. So you've got diagnostic attributes, and you can create resulting initiatives based on those attributes. For example, also teams can own those sub-metrics. So you've got clear language, that's a percentage, that's a metric, can be owned by our localization team. You've got friendly tone, is owned by our content design team. We've got price accuracy, right? And price accuracy is then driven an internal initiative called total cost. Many companies have a similar initiative in the company. So of course, that's whenever you buy something on a meta search and you get a good price, you go to the partner site, the price is different, right? And then they, in airline terms, they'd be adding seats and adding bags and so on. So at Skyscanner, we work very hard about making sure that information is transparent up front. So total cost, and we can measure it here. And trustworthiness, right? What we've done there is we've looked into that gold mine of insights that come with URS, and we figured out it's not that people don't trust Skyscanner, they do trust Skyscanner. It's about that they're not so familiar, not so kind of aware of the brands of our partners that you can buy from. So now we know that's a partner trust issue. What can we do about that? So that has created an initiative that we then are measuring very clearly. So that led to us designing with insight this time from URS, and facilitating those ideation workshops and coming up with various solutions. One of them we've launched this year, which is very simple from a UI perspective, but it's a lot of work in terms of commercial and sort of the back end and the supply in terms of that inside the company. So a recommended provider badge, and you see this in our partner list on the site. And it's a recommended provider badge. It's that stamp of approval that Skyscanner really recommends this partner. You can trust them, right? They have great traveler reviews, right? They're going to have good price accuracy. So when you leave here, you'll see the same price, and other things like that. So you also downstream usability, right? So that's another part of it. So there's multiple aspects to this. We give it a score actually to generate this. So that we know is measurably driving retention as well as revenue. So what have we learned from this first step? Measure user needs. Actually measure them and make those metrics actionable so you can drive them. I don't know about you, but in the past I have said something like, yeah, I know it's not going to, might not make conversion, increase in conversion, but it'll impact revenue or retention. It'll impact retention, this design improvement. But that's like post-rationalizing design, right? This way you can take it the other way around. You can go, what drives retention? Let's action on that and apply our craft. So checklist, I told you it was practical. Create a job to be done framework. Agree diagnostics with owners, with business owners in your team, so you have that cross-functional ownership and buy-in from the beginning. Survey for retention KPI, job to be done, and ease. And match those user IDs and get that correlation going. Match it to behavioral retention. So that's step one. Step two, how to impact market share. Market share, right? Again, and we're going to use some of the same principles from before. I'm also going to just recommend a tool that we use. I'm just going to dive in, just going to tell you what it is. It's a great tool that takes the pain away. There's a lot of pain points in market analysis, and this is a really good tool that takes those away. I'm not getting commission for this, but this tool is Market Monitor from Qualtrics. Has anyone used Market Monitor or know about it, heard about it? Yeah? Okay, so new for many of you. Market Monitor is an amazing tool. It's an 11-minute online survey, much like the URS piece. It's also backed up with consumer panels off-site. It's market-sized, right? So for non-users as well as users. And it's market by market and globally. And it tells you how well you're performing in the market, again, in comparison to other brands, right? So this is key. And brilliantly, it gives you this inverted pyramid, right, around awareness and preference. So let's start up here. It gives you the percent of the market that is aware of your product. It gives you the percent that would consider using your product. It gives you a percent that say they visited you, and it also gives you this percent that would prefer you over other brands. What's great about this, you can derive two other metrics from this that are pretty exciting. First of all is brand relevance, all right? From those people who are aware of you, who would consider you, right? That percent is brand relevance. And then those who have visited your site and actually say they prefer you over other brands, that's product market fit. Okay, so now you've got awareness, brand relevance, product market fit, and preference. And everything is driving to preference, right? So remember that. Now, something really interesting, because it's market by market, we found some things that are really interesting, for example, in Korea. And because you've got awareness, brand relevance, and PMF, we found out, for example, that the awareness is quite good for Skyscanner in Korea, but our product market fit through local market fit wasn't as strong, right? So actually what you can do here as a business is that you can focus on not doing messaging, not doing marketing, but actually fixing the product and making the local market fit. And we know, again, from some of the deep dives, that we know what those problems are. So you have these diagnostic attributes, again, very similar to URS, and we're going to connect this now. Is like, for example, things like, are you a trustworthy brand? Do we make it easier to compare? Do we give you clarity on total price, so total cost, similar? Do we save you time, and so on? There's a whole list of these. And of course, you're thinking these are similar to the other one, right? That's intentional, because now you can use that to link the tools together, right? And we know that all of these are, again, functional and emotional attributes that are driving, that describe what the product does and how it feels, right? And we know that drives preference. It also drives brand relevance. Can't say that today. Relevance. But those are key, right? And now the key bit again, the magic moment. We worked with our data partners in the business, and we've established that preference is strongly correlated with market share, right? And this is the bingo moment, because that's what the business cares about. Market share, right? Strongly correlated. That is the money moment. Right, so now here's the landscape. You've got these percentage. These are, again, submetrics, factors, right? You can drive, right? This is the landscape. They drive preference. That drives market share. And you can connect the attributes from one tool to another. So when you want to get designing with insight, again, to drive market share, you dig into URS insight, into that gold mine of insights that you have from that. So that's how you can action your process and your craft to drive market share. So what have we learned? Correlation is key. Who'd have thought it? Correlation is key, and mirroring attributes across tools allows you to connect them, right? That is a key thing. So again, practical checklist, set up URS or a similar tool inside your company, set up Market Monitor, collect market share. You can do that from tools like Euromonitor, if you're familiar with that, and get that analytics partnership to derive that correlation. Okay, so third step. How do you prove that design quality matters? This one has been very elusive for me over the years, right? So I'm really happy about this one, although I have a caveat at the end. So first of all, what do? Well, you first of all reframe the concept of design quality, because design is misunderstood in companies, right? You describe it, people misunderstand what it is. It's a big issue. So don't say design quality, say design consistency, right? Use consistency as a word. So most stakeholders, they generally, if you said, do you want consistency? They say yes, right? It's a clear word. There's a body of user research that says that consistency is a good thing in digital product design. But then you're going to layer into the sort of layers of design, right? So when you apply design process to what the product does, you get features and content, right? So in terms of consistency, that's feature inconsistency, or feature parity, you could say. So for example, that's, you're shopping for clothes in an app, you save some items you want to save to your saved list, you go to the website, there's no saved list on the website, right? That's a feature parity issue. When you apply design craft to how it works, you get usability and comprehension and so on, right? And the word we use internally is ergonomic inconsistency. That's the inconsistency issue here. And that's, for example, you buy a flight with an airline. It goes into My Trips on the website. You look on the app. It's a different way of getting to My Trips in the navigation, right? So that's a frustrating ergonomic issue. And then when you apply design craft to how the product feels, that you get visual design, tone of voice, haptic sounds, motion, all that good stuff. We call that stylistic inconsistency. So you've got feature, ergonomic, and stylistic inconsistencies. This is important because we're going to use that later. First of all, you want to create clarity with your teams. Okay, so this is an effort. You're going to audit the product end-to-end and across platforms. And this looks a little bit like sort of a crime scene, or from the board with all the string, right, and the suspects, that thing, right? So this is one of our Figma files. We had loads of Figma files. It's going, here's all the problems. And so you do that, and you get really rigorous about this quality stuff. And you get it onto Jira Product Discovery or whatever tool you use. You itemize everything, you tag them. And then, crucially, you use those layers of design to tag the issues with, right? So you can use that later. Feature inconsistency, ergonomics, or style. And then you enable your cross-functional teams to prioritize, right? You want to help them do that, right? So you get in the room with them, you run those workshops, cross-functional workshops with product and engineering and so on, and you take your subset of the JPD board, all the issues, and you use simple heuristics to estimate the impact. So for desirability, high, medium, and low, is it really visible? Is it a top job to be done? Engineering velocity gain, right? High, medium, or low. And then conversion, high, medium, or low, right? And then you wrap this up into a single impact metric that you can use to prioritize the issues. And then you need time, right? You need to do this over a period of time. You do it by quarter. You get those issues off those JPD boards into roadmaps, a few at a time. You be opportunistic, okay? You get some stuff done whenever they're touching something else. And then if your company, most companies are like Skyscanner in that everything's an experiment, right? Which is pros and cons sometimes, right? But in this case, it's a pro. Because you can see in your analytics tool the upside of that, the revenue uplift of that fix that you did. And you add up the value. Every quarter, you go through, you see, what is all the money we're making off this? And you add it up and you report it and you start to evangelize. And then, in our case, after a year of this, we actually got to a really big number. Now, unfortunately, this got redacted like yesterday, so I can't tell you what the actual number is, but it is many millions. It's many millions, which is amazing to be able to say. And look, it's not even all of them, right? This is the revenue uplift from around 20% of those fixes, okay? And that is amazing because you can use this sneaky trick as well, which is you can project forward. You can say, look, we made this many millions from 20% of the fixes. Imagine if this were 100% of the fixes. Look how much money we'd be making. Why are we leaving that money on the table? Why not just design it ship it like the designers designed it in the first place? I'm conscious that this may go away with AI and the design to code workflows. Hopefully it does, but you might want to have these proof in your back pocket. So what was interesting is that feature consistency, of course, made the most money, right? So that's parity. A good feature on one platform should make money on the other. Should improve the experience and help revenue on the other. That makes sense. Ergonomics, of course, usability. You think that's going to make money, right? And it made, a few million, 17%. But the interesting thing is that stylistic inconsistency, the thing that's hardest to get proof on, and you always have to resort to trust, vague statements about trust. You can actually say it was again many millions here, right? That was a third of the total number. And that's kind of amazing, right? That is the hardest one to do. So it's lovely to have that in your back pocket. What have we learned? Show your impact on the metric your stakeholders care about. I mean, it's obvious, but it's also to gather that proof, stay the course, be rigorous, and invest the time in because it's worth it. So checklist, refine design quality as consistency. Audit, estimate together, engage those teams, collect revenue uplift of fixes, and evangelize that value. Once you have these metrics, with any of those metrics we talked about so far, you just start to evangelize. You have confidence now, right? And use that as leverage for standards. And I hope that problem goes away with AI, with this transition. But let's see. So in summary, what have we learned in summary? Measure user needs, define design quality, tie those metrics to the metrics others care about. So we talk about getting a seat at the strategy table, right? That's often the thing we talk about, but actually, the thing you're really talking about is getting a seat in the boardroom, right? And if you go into the boardroom and you don't have evidence of your impact in the language that they understand and care about, you're lost, and your whole design project of influence is lost, right? So this is what you want. You want to be able to do this, right? So, looking back at our problem, at unrealized potential, this journey we've been on and like the potential for this has really started changing the tone of the conversation at Skyscanner, right? There's a lot of more focus on strategic projects, a lot of more confidence in bigger bets, right? And design teams are more autonomous in driving that, using the insights that we have, right? And be able to connect our value to the biggest heavy hitter metrics. And that's what I want for all of you, right? I want people to go and knock their socks off with that ability. Because what if you could have that high investment, that shipped craft out the door and get the numbers up? And like the HBR article says, get strategic with your design if you're not already, right? Be able to apply that to product strategy, business strategy, and double the performance of your company and get that huge impact. So I said I had a tip for you. So this is our new app exclusive feature called Drops. It is a feed from your home airport of flight price drops of at least 20% every day, and sometimes a lot more than that. I update it every day, so go check it out. It's going to have a measurable impact on your wallet. Thank you. All right, so thank you. I've only had 20 minutes today, and just the bare bones of the journey we've been on. I know it's at high level, happy to connect. Also, full transparency, I'm representing the team here. I've led one of these initiatives. My colleagues led the other. Happy to connect you with them. But I really feel like this is a path to design greatness, design influence, right? That huge impact that we can have. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.